Sony hasn't really done enough of late to cement itself against the leading manufacturers when it comes to high-end flagship phones. The Xperia TX could have changed all this with a helping hand from the big-budget Bond film Skyfall, which saw it featured as the European variant, the Xperia T. If the TX was truly MI6's go-to gadget for 2012, should it be yours? Let's take a look. The TX is a straight down-the-line boxy smartphone when you look at it from the front. Nice dark black glossy screen, rectangular frame with gentle curves at the edges, branding top and bottom with the Xperia lighting up when switched on, but no capacitive buttons to be found. Fairly classy. Turn on the phone's sides and you get a host of curves and angles, also fairly appealing. The plastics they use feel and look somewhat budget, and I really don't care for the splitting faux metallic band. The phone is thickest at a reasonable 8.6mm at its top and bottom edges. The size of the phone thins with a concavity that aids to give the rear casing a little less body and conformity that makes it fit really nice in hand. Sony included a dedicated shutter button on the bottom right hand side with the unlock move to the top left hand side, which when I wasn't careful would be holding the phone upside down trying to unlock it with the shutter button, because the branding at the top and bottom of the front screen gives the phone an unwanted symmetry. The charging port has been moved to where I would typically find an unlock button on many other Android devices, which for me I didn't appreciate constantly touching. The removable rear panel choice was good though, really nice touch sensation and doesn't mark like a glossy plastic, and with a high fidelity when taking it on and off. A gentle notification light hides next to the front facing camera, and the speaker grille is contained at the back of the device. In all, its design makes it not very imposing in use, which was great, and at only 127 grams it isn't particularly heavy. The Xperia TX pushes a lot of great specs like NFC and a massive 13 megapixel camera with HSDPA data speeds, but lacks a necessary power in its processor. This comes down to the Qualcomm Snapdragon dual-core 1.5 GHz CPU, 1 GB of RAM and Adreno 225 GPU. It's sluggish under stress, and even when you are merely jumping in and out of apps and across home pages, the device feels strained. It is distinctly slow at times, comes to a grinding halt when downloading larger files in the background, and really doesn't optimize what you would relate to a Bond phone. On benchmarks, it is situated near the Galaxy S2, and so does it in price. Gaming was delivered nicely with good in-game performance, however the TX frequently crashed when booting up a level. I also noticed that similar glitches and shutdowns from time to time in general use. Storage is great in the TX, coming with 16GB of internal memory, which is bolstered by a micro SD card slot up to another 32GB. Call quality and data speeds were constantly good, but I did find the speakers, while offering very accurate sound, could be a little quiet with voices on the other end. The 1750 mAh battery never made it longer than a day and would do around 5 hours of continuous HD video playback. Where Sony did truly go the extra yard in the TX was with its beautiful 4.55 inch 720 by 1280 pixel display, which delivers fantastic colours, brilliant brightness and exceptional whites. I am continually taken back by the quality of the screen. In particular, text would show clean definition thanks to its 323 ppi pixel density. The size is unique and quite a nice choice, as I find 4.3 inches my new cutoff point and 5 inches around the maximum comfortable screen size for the average person. Unfortunately, I won't be seeing the TX run Jelly Bean, but that isn't too far away. However, Ice Cream Sandwich and Sony's NXT UI isn't a bad alternative. It's funny that when I first get a Sony device, I find it looks sterile and bland, particularly its widgets and backgrounds, but when I customize it and remove the in-house widgets and make it my own, it's a very pleasing UI to own and operate. The lock screen gives two options only: unlock or open the camera. Alternatively, you can get a quick snap using the shutter button on the side of the phone. Unlocking in, you get 5 standard home pages to swipe through and customize. Icon choices are neat and predominantly blue and silver, which is why it felt sterile on first use. The home pages still can be broken down to a mess of widgets with a 2-finger gesture, and the screen hosts dedicated on-screen navigation buttons like stock Android. Sony's choice with the email client, contacts and messaging applications was a wise one, however their in-house apps aren't too bad. The Walkman app delivers music well, particularly its visualizer, which I still find amusing. Wise Pilot and Smart Connect are also fantastic additions. I really do not like the Timescape app, but that is my personal preference. Sony did move the multitasking panel over to where the on-screen button is, which makes a lot of sense and operates as it did in raw Android 4.0. This is until you notice the row of customizable mini apps that you can launch here. Of note, the calculator, voice memo, sketch memo, and mini browser. They are floating applications that can be shifted around to run on top of other phone applications. This is more useful than I thought it would be. Even the browser is adjustable and defaults to taking you to Google, which is great when wanting to search an idea on top of a running email or message. The notifications tab is simple with a couple of toggles, and the settings menu is clean and sleek. I now find I quite adore how Sony delivers the user experience, be it very underpowered. I did have issues with the keyboard though. The customization options were there and they were quite impressive. However, for such a large screen, I struggled to type well with the phone in portrait. Landscape was a little better, but I do find it less accurate than its competitors with this particular Sony device. Watching videos on the 4.55-inch display was a beautiful thing. The Bravia Engine 2 helps boost the quality of colours in a way that delivered an experience I was extremely fond of. The sound quality was superb, but if you like, it's simple enough to just push media files straight across to another device like your smart TV for the full experience. Internet browsing was plagued by the same issues with the keyboard and was a little slow with the hardware. The prominent selling point though of the TX would be the 13 megapixel camera. It performed really well. Photos were sharply detailed and accuracy of the automatic exposure was generally perfect. The UI is simple and easy to use and the dedicated shutter button is always welcomed. My only criticism is that in low light situations, a bumped up ISO would force a red-green noise that made the photos look a little warmer than they should be. It is very clear that the Xperia TX is Sony's best smartphone offering at the moment. That is until the momentous Xperia Z comes along and steals all the titles away. But for the TX's price, I never anticipated it to contend with the iPhone or Galaxy S3. It's a disappointing phone from the perspective of a top tier device for any brand. The sluggish, underpowered performance draws a lot away from the generous 13 megapixel camera and the gorgeous display. As a smartphone, it delivers everything it needs to in terms of usability, looks, features, data speeds, and call quality. They were all superb. In terms of pulling 007 out of a dicey situation, I'm afraid he'd likely be KIA. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This has been Kurt from KABOOtech. Thanks for watching.